Timothy Taylor, Havercake.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This was a request from a viewer the other day, and it was the Timothy Taylor's Havercake that they asked for, and it's what they're going to get. Now, I didn't realise that this was a limited edition beer, and it's on its, I want to say it's on its way out, but I think the round is coming to an end. Now, this was an old brew that Timothy Taylor did do a while back, and they've decided to redo it for, I think it was for 2022 when they introduced it. But I'm not sure whether, I know it's a limited edition, and if you buy this from the brewery, then you're limited to 3 bottles, and I did buy 3 bottles of it because anything from this lot are good. Now, these are a fantastic brewery. They are a traditional British brewer, and they've been going a long time. I don't really want to go into the history of the brewery because I've done it on so many other Timothy Taylor videos that I just want to get into ingredients and what this beer is all about. Now, this, well, look at the label first, right? So on the label, you've got a soldier who looks like he was around at the time of the Napoleonic Wars. And it actually looks like a recruiting sergeant because you've got a load of other fellas there. They look drunk and they're probably signing up for the army drunk, and that's what they would do back in the day. If you've ever watched Sharp, there's actually an episode about that, about a recruiting sergeant, and basically he plies the men with beer that he's trying to get to join the army, and then he marches them off, and yeah, they sign their life away, take the King's Shilling and go over to France and Flanders to fight for King George. But there you go, that is another story. I don't want to bore you too much with the history. I know some people say they like the history and all that, so some people say they don't. So if you don't like it, skip forward, but I'm a bit of a history nerd, so you're gonna get it. But this was brewed, and this was brewed by Timothy Taylor, I should say, and it's, as I say, it's not a staple, it's not a part of their core range, but they have done it before. There are different labels that you could, if you go onto the website, you can see that this had a different label a while back. So I assume that they do this every now and again, they revive this beer. And the name, Havercake, actually comes from the name of a cake that was a staple around the villages of the Pennines, and it was a nickname that was given to the Duke of Wellington's regiment. Now, the Duke of Wellington's regiment, I don't think it's still going at the moment, or it might be a territorial army unit. I'm not sure. It used to be a territorial army unit. I know when I joined the French Foreign Legion, there was a couple of Yorkshire lads, and they served in the Duke of Wellington's regiment, and they were as Yorkshire as you can fucking get. Good lads, actually. But yeah, the Duke of Wellington's regiment is an old British regiment, lots of battle honours. I don't really want to go into too much of the battle honours, but yes, named after, of course, is it Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, the famous Duke of Wellington, who defeated Napoleon Bonaparte in 1815 at Waterloo, I think it was it 1812? I must admit my Napoleonic War history is very, very rusty indeed. I should read up a lot about the Napoleonic Wars because they are fascinating. The little bits I have read are absolutely fascinating. Hard times, very, very hard times, and you know, people go on about the privileged lifestyles that we lead. Jesus Christ, you want to see what they was going through back then. It was a hard life. Anyway, enough about that. Timothy Taylor's great brewery. Always liked what they've done. In fact, I've only had a very mediocre beer from them once, and that was that Hoppy Storm or something, Tropical Storm? I don't know what it was called. It was their attempt at a craft beer, and I actually have got some of their other craft beer range. They do like a little craft beer range, Not too sure what it's like, but if it's anything, I think it was called Hopical Storm or something like that. But I don't think much of it, to be honest. I think this is their bread and butter. This is what they do best, and yeah, I love what they do. I love the bitter that they do, Bulk Maker. I've got a bottle of that here. That is a fantastic bitter. True English bitter. If ever you want a typical English bitter, get some of that down you. That is fantastic. And of course, Landlord, which is their flagship beer, is a fantastic beer. Whether it be on cask, whether it be in the bottle, it is superb. I'm lucky there's a pub not too far away from me in Maidstone where they do really good pints of Timothy Taylor Landlord, and it's my go-to whenever I'm visiting Maidstone. But there you go. Anyway, let's stop gassing and let's get on to the next section. Let's see what's in this beer. Right, this is a 500ml bottle. This is 4.7% Havercake, oaty, malty, strong amber ale. At 4.7%, I wouldn't say it's too strong, but on the back, originally brewed to honour the soldiers of the Duke of Wellington's regiment, affectionately nicknamed the Havercake lads. The name is derived from the oatmeal cake that was the staple food of the Yorkshire Pennine towns and villages where most of the soldiers lived. Havercake has been created using a mixture of amber malt and two types of oat malt. This delivers a full-bodied Moorish ale with a creamy head and slight sweetness. Fuggles and Goldings are in the hop mix, which adds to the overall taste. Yeah, quick bit about the ingredients. There's other malt in there as well. You've got Golden Promise Pale Ale malt, which is, I would imagine, is the base malt that they've used in this. Very nice malt indeed. Golden Promise, I think they've used in a couple of others. If I'm not mistaken, I think Golden Promise is in Landlord. Could be wrong on that, but they've got crystal malt in here as well, which is going to give it a sweetness too. The amber malt, as the name would suggest, it gives it its colour, which is I imagine a nice amber colour. I've not seen this in a glass yet. The oats, give beer body. I'm not sure about oats too much in these kind of beers. I think when you put oats in there, I wouldn't say it's a get out, but it's for head retention and it gives the beer body. I do look at some German beers, and of course you don't get oats in German beers, and you know they're really full bodied and the head retention on them is superb. So yeah, I don't really want to bash Timothy Taylor for putting oats in their beer, but I noticed that a lot of craft brewers do it as well. And in stuff like IPAs and pale ales and American style IPAs and pale ales, and I'm really not a fan of it because a lot of them beers don't have much body. They're just dominated by them really strong hops, and I ain't really a fan. But there you go. The hops in here, as they say, are Styrian Goldings and Fuggles. Now, Styrian Goldings, would you believe, are derived from Fuggles, or a Fuggle type. And as the name suggests, Styria, it's in the region of Slovenia and a little part of Austria as well. And them hops are used quite a lot in English beer, very well renowned Styrian Goldings. And Fuggles as well, you can't get more English than Fuggles hops. Fuggles are the hops that give it its real earthiness and give it that slight bitterness as well. They really are a typical English hop, and I love them in beer, in any English ale. Once you get Fuggles and Goldings, especially East Kent Goldings, you know, just superb. Really are a good combination of them two hops. The water is from the Knoll Spring, which is their own artesian spring, I think. Well, it's not too far anyway, but they've named the Golden Ale after that spring, the Knoll Spring, and I've got a bottle in there. I will be reviewing that as well. There's quite a few Timothy Taylor reviews coming up, and I think I may have captured everything in their range, so that'll be all of the Timothy Taylor range reviewed on this channel. Timothy Taylor, as I say, are a great brewer. They are from the People's Republic of fucking Yorkshire, and I really like them. So without further ado, let's get it open. Let's see what's going on. Right, I'm really looking forward to this, and thanks for the suggestion because it did encourage me to get a lot more. I got a big parcel. The cap is just plain brass colour. I did get a few others as well, so I can't remember the viewer's name, but you know who you are. Thanks very much for the suggestion. And if this is a good beer, then there will be a gold star in the post. Probably. There it is. Oh, it's quite light, isn't it? It is very light. It's almost, I've seen lagers that colour. I mean, it looks quite amber on the camera there, but if you hold that up to the light, that is really sort of, I don't know, it's like a very sort of, well, no, slightly dark golden colour on the nose. Oh, orangey. I'm getting slight notes of orange and fruit. Quite subdued aromas, I will say that. There's a slight musty note to it too. Interesting. There is a bitterness to it as well, or a bitter type aroma. I mean, how can you say a bitter type aroma? Well, it's like a musty bitterness that I'm getting from it. But it is quite nice, I have to say. Interesting. Not sure about the head retention. That ain't too clever for all the oats that are in there. So, without further ado, let's get it down my fat Gregory Peck. Good Elf, bottoms up. Oh, that is bitter. Let me dive in again. Yeah, that's not what I was expecting. The malty finish that they talk about, I'm not really getting that. It's all about the bitterness on that, and it's like almost like a zesty orange zest bitterness that's all the way through there. There's a slight earthiness to it, but it really doesn't have much of a malt character on there at all. Now that's unusual, because if you try the Timothy Taylor Landlords, then you know that is really malt forward. That's supposedly a pale ale, but this is all about the bitterness. Bitterness and some type of orchard fruit, maybe apple. It's not the off flavour that you get, that apple flavour, but it is bitter. I do like bitters, don't get me wrong, but this is almost like I wouldn't say grapefruit bitterness, I'm not going to say that, but it's almost like an orangey sort of citric acid type bitterness. You know, that citric acids from oranges and grapefruit, that kind of thing, but it is not grapefruit, but that is the kind of bitterness that's going all the way through it, which is unusual. I thought there would have been a bit more of the earthiness that you would associate with Fuggles hops, but I'm not really getting that, to be honest. Quite dry as well. There's a dry finish on there. That's Percy, by the way. Percy, come here. Percy, come here, me old mucker. You ain't been on here in a while, have you? Here he is. What do you think of this, mate? Wait, what do you think of that? Not impressed. Strictly German bit. I think you must have go down. They're all fucking barking at something. Go on in. He'll come busting in through the door. I don't know who they're barking at, but our little Jack Russell, fucking hell, she is a nightmare. An absolute nightmare whenever somebody knocks on the door. As you can hear, little yappy little git. I have to say, that is not that great. Look at the head retention on that. That does not look good at all. What is the sell-by date on this? See, best before end. Please see bottleneck. Well, where's the fucking bottleneck? Bottleneck. It's got fuck all in a bottle. Oh, hang on. Oh, Jesus Christ. How the fuck is Mr. Magoo meant to see that? I told you he'd be back, didn't I? Best before the first. Is it the first? This is not out of date, surely. No. Best before. I think that is out of date. I think it says best before end BBE 1st 2024. Well, what can you say about that? Yeah, not that great, I have to say. And this is about cellar temperature. This room is really cold, and I'm just going to have a look at this, right, and see what the date is on this, because if them dirty northern bastards have given me November 2024, I think that's maybe what it says on this one. If they've given me out-of-date beer, I'm going to go fucking mental. That is really hard to discern what that says. I think it says November, so it's not out. Yeah, that's an N. I thought it said the 1st. No, that is in date. Yeah, I'm just not getting on with this. That bitterness is just. I'd like some malt to balance that out, but this has just got too much bitterness on it, and it's not really doing it for me. I like a bit more character, or I should say a bit more malt character in my beer, and this really hasn't got it, and I'm a little bit disappointed with that, I have to say. So, what is the verdict on Timothy Taylor's Havercake? Well, I have to say, that is a little bit fucking disappointing. It's saying oaty and malty strong amber ale, but I'm not really getting any malt character on that at all. It just ain't there. It's bitter on the palate, bitter finish. It's quite dry as well. There was a little bit of a mustiness and an earthiness to it, which is nice. And once your palate adjusts to that bitterness, it's kind of drinkable, I have to say, but I would have just liked a little bit more from that, and unfortunately it is wanting. But I'm not sure what that would be like straight out the fridge, cold, because it is a light coloured ale. What does it say? Does it have a serving temperature? It's best served between 11 and 13 degrees. Well, that's kind of what I would class as cellar temperature, and that more or less is what it is. And for all their gumph about the oats being for the body, it is quite weak bodied. And yeah, general synopsis, quite disappointing. What would I give it? There's no nasties in there, which is a good one. But I expect a bit more from a brewer like this, Timothy Taylor. They are great, and I don't know what's happened here. I really don't. I think there's just too much bitterness on there, and I think if it had had a little bit more of, I don't know, maybe a little bit more biscuit or caramel malt to balance out that bitterness, that would have been quite nice. But it just isn't there, unfortunately. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. I know this lot can do better, and to be honest, the state I'm in, I've spoke about it in other videos as well, but the state of British brewing at the moment, a subscriber put me on to Adnam's been in trouble at the moment. I've just been reading about them, and they've called in advisors to try and get some more funding, because they've got big debts, big bank loans that they need to pay off, and there's rumours that they're going to have to be selling off some of their pubs as well to sort of try and make ends meet. And there's a company who's bought out, I should say, or rescued quite a few craft brewers. They bought the Black Sheep Brewery. That's why they're still brewing now. Brewery, I think they're called, and they're a private equity company. and they're looking at taking over Adnams. But I think the writing's on the wall for British brewers. It really is. The price of beer is becoming prohibitive now. It really is. You know, especially in pubs. And I really don't want to go into a rant about this fucking government. I am sick of them. Since you last spoke to me, my estimation was low. Now of the government. Now it is fucking lower than a snake's belly with these bastards. And I don't think there's anyone waiting in the wings to take over who's a viable option for this country. None of them. They're fucking clueless. They don't live in the real world, these fuckers. And I know I shouldn't talk about politics on a beer channel, but I'm sick of it because it's affecting everything we do, you know. And I like my beer. And I can see good brewers going out of business. I can see trends changing. I can see pubs closing. And it fucking boils my piss. And what can you do? You can rant and rave, or you can not vote. Well, if you don't vote, you let the scumbags in. If you vote, you only encourage the fucking bastards. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. Go and live in a fucking tent in the middle of a field somewhere. I've got a mate who lives in Bavaria, and that's his plan. He wants to he's got a bit of land, and he wants to live in the woods in a log cabin. And when he first told me a few years ago, I was thinking, well, that ain't really for me. And now that idea is becoming more and more appealing, just to get away from these fuckers. And even now, if you do it over here, them fuckers will hound you out. You're not allowed to do any wild camping now. They banned that. Banned wild camping. You fucking wankers. It makes me sick. I'm not going to go into a rant. I've got to stop because the old blood pressure is going through the effing roof. Let's get back to this. Yeah, the best I'm going to give this is a 5.5 because I just can't get on with it. It's just the bitterness is a little bit too much for me. I will drink that, and I've got 2 other bottles. I'll give it to me German mate. I'll tell him it's fantastic. If he's watching this, he fucking won't believe me. But I'll give it to me German mate. He likes Timothy Taylor stuff. He might like this. I don't know. So, I mean, taste, as I always say, is subjective. All these videos are just my opinions. You may have different opinions on beer that I taste. But for me, this is just a little bit too bitter. Did I mention it was bitter? So 5.5 out of 10. Yeah, try it. Give it a go. See what you think. Because they are a good brewery. That's why I'm giving them an easy ride on this one. If it was some 2 Bob Marston's beer, I'd be fucking going into rants about it. But yeah, it probably wouldn't taste, as well. I'm not saying as good, but if this was an attempt, a Marston's attempt, it'd be even fucking worse. Like that, what's that Empire IPA that they do? Jesus Christ, that is disgusting. Instant headache. I don't know what they put in there. Instant headache for me, and it's not nitro either. Oh, stop ranting. Anyway, 5 out of 10. Recommended with caution. And remember, beer is working class champagne.